I do not vlog often, or at all actually, but if I do, I would like decent image and sound quality, and also jerky-free stabilization. And actually, I don't want to buy a dedicated vlogging camera, which would be probably either Olympus EM1 Mark III or OM Systems OM1 with Leica 9mm lens, because it's too expensive. The first combo would be 2.2k USD and the second combo 2.7. I know that the OM1 is quite nice camera, but I already got few cameras, so don't want to buy a dedicated vlogging one. And actually there are no reviews of Olympus cameras with this Panasonic slash Leica lens, so it's hard to tell the combo is any good. Probably is, but might not. So I'm waiting for the Camera Conspiracies to release the review, and then maybe if I'm into vlogging, I would buy one. So I decided to test what I got to see which combo is the best and which combo is the closest to fulfill these needs. So the contestants are Insta360 1R with standard 4K mode and 360 mode, Sony A6600 with Samyang 12mm f2. It's on Joby tripod with a small Movo mic installed with dead cat, and the camera I'm recording at the moment on, which is Sony A7 IV with different lenses and the same mic and the same tripod. I guess this is the first part of the series regarding the vlogging setups, because maybe if I got new lenses I would test them also for vlogging. So let's dive in. So Insta360 1R is actually quite nice camera. I got a boosted battery, so I can record like 3.5 hours of 4K video with this, and this up to 60 frames per second with the 4K mode, I think. But for vlogging, 24 or 25 is plenty enough. So, and actually this camera got really good stabilization, the image quality is okay. But the problem is the sound quality from the internal mic. There is actually a way to connect external mic via USB-C adapter, although there are no mounting points on the camera, so you need a cage for the camera. And actually I have found only one model which can accommodate this camera with a boosted battery. It's a Ulanzi cage and it's not available anywhere, so there is no way to connect this mic. I can connect the lav mic using the adapter, but then it means I would be tethered to the camera, which is quite annoying. But this is the thing I can do. I can mount the lav mic either under my clothes with the Rhino stickies, or I can use the fur which I got for my road lav, and then this protects against the wind to the moderate level. I tested this before and it's not ideal, but it's like 10 times better than the internal mic of this camera when the wind is blowing. So for this camera there are three options. You can record with a 4K and then use the Pro stabilization, which is called float state stabilization, but you need additional step in post. You have to run the video through Insta360 app, either on a phone or desktop, to stabilize the footage. So this is another step in post and it takes a lot of time because you have to encode the whole video. You can edit the video in the app, but this app is quite annoying and there is no option to play video at 2x or 4x speed, so you have to edit this in a real time. So if you got 1 hour video, you'd spend probably around 1 hour editing it, so it's really annoying. And there is no plugin for DaVinci Resolve. There is a plugin for Adobe Premiere and Final Cut, I think, but no plugin for DaVinci, so you cannot do this in DaVinci, which is really annoying. And the 4K mode for Insta360 is a 16mm f2.8 equivalent, more or less, so it is quite wide. And I guess it's quite okay regarding the field of view. But there is also an option to use standard stabilization with this. And when standard stabilization is used, called basic one, stabilization happens in the camera, and it's some kind of the digital stabilization. There is a crop, slight crop, like 10 to 20%, something like that. The field of view is smaller. It is still okay, but I prefer the field of view with the float state stabilization, which is a bit bigger. And then there is a 360 mode for this camera. So you're actually recording everything around you. And still you can tether your mic or connect the mic or connect the external shotgun mic or a small video mic. But still you need the cage, which I don't have. And it's not possible to get one at the moment. And I think this might be the best for vlogging, especially if you are recording everything around you. And if you want to showcase something, you don't have to turn around the camera. You can still talk to the camera and showcase something, but you have to frame this in post. So for sure there is another step, but also using 360 mode, there is only float state stabilization. There is no stabilization in the camera. So you have to go through the post step to stabilize the footage anyway. So then you can also reframe it, but this would take time. So if you got 1 hour video, you would spend like an hour or more in this Insta 360 app, which is quite annoying. So, and actually I'm happy about the image stabilization for all the modes. So 360, 4K basic stabilization and 4K flow state. The only con is that the sound quality with the internal mic is really lame. It's like that. So it's recording square footage, at least it's square on the screen. And also one thing is that with the float state stabilization, you can sometimes see artifacts, especially in the foliage. So it's not ideal. Everything is very stable, but the foliage on some small elements in the frame might have some strange artifacts to it after float state is applied. So it's probably not a big deal. It's better to have a stabilized footage with some small artifacts than when it's not stabilized, but it's a for sure a con. An Insta360 with this selfie stick is 250 grams, and it doesn't matter which mode it is, it's still 250 with this big battery. But then you need to attach the mic somehow, and this mobile mic I got is 74 grams, and you need a cage, and the cage is around 100 grams, at least the one from Ulanzi, which is quite nice, I say. So the whole setup would be 426 grams, which is half the weight of the Sony setup. And actually with the selfie stick you can record like this, or you can extend this so you got wider field of view. And I can definitely record with this for 4 hours. Probably I would deplete battery first, then get tired. So that's another pro. It's very, very light. So what about A6600? I've heard a lot that this camera is not suitable for vlogging. On paper, it is like perfect vlogging camera because it got IBIS. There are optical image stabilized lenses for this camera. It is quite light. It records excellent 4K video. There is no crop apart of this APS-C, so there is an APS-C crop. This Samyang seems to be the perfect choice because it's 12mm f2, which is 18mm f3 equivalent on full frame, so should be wide enough. So this is the first configuration I've tried, and I'd say everything is fine except image stabilization. So the IBIS of this camera is really lame and the footage is really jerky. And since this is the previous generation camera, there is no gyro data recorded, so there is no option to stabilize this in post using Catalyst Bros. So I'd say without optical stabilization, it's really, really lame. Although the way this is configured with the hot shoe relocator, it is perfect for vlogging, because when you vlog like that, you look onto the screen which is above the lens, and it still seems that you are looking into the lens, so you still keep the connection with the audience that way. I think it's for vlogging, top screen is the best option, and you got the mic on the side and it still records okay. The plus of this is that the screen is on top of a lens, so even though I'm looking onto the screen, it kind of seems I'm looking into the lens. That would be the perfect vlogging camera if there would be a at least good stabilization. It is not. You can see example footage, how jerky it is. Maybe someone would like it. Maybe if you got really good content and the audience does not care about the shakiness of the footage because the content is so great, maybe it's an option. I don't know how great my content would be, so I would rather have also stabilized footage. So I'd say it's not a good option, although it looks the best on the paper and it's quite light. The whole setup is 832 grams, so less than 1 kilo. So it's quite comfortable to keep like that. And actually, when I've been recording, I've been keeping my elbow tucked to my body, so it is more stable, and I could probably use this for like 10 minutes, and if I switch hands I can use this probably like an hour. It's quite light and all necessary features, especially image and sound quality, but the image stabilization is lame, and it can record like 2 hours of footage on a single battery, so it's plenty enough for any vlog, I'd say, and you can have a spare battery. So it's a shame that image stabilization of A6600 is that lame. So then I tried the A7 IV, and on A7 IV we got plenty of options. So first of all, the image quality is the best of them all. I can connect the same mic, so the sound quality would be the same, but regarding the image quality, you can record 10-bit 4:2 internally, and regarding the image stabilization, you got 4 options, so you can record with IBIS, so it's standard stabilization. You can record with IBIS combined with optical stabilization, but I do not have any lens with optical stabilization, unfortunately. Then you can record with IBIS and active stabilization on top of it, and active stabilization is digital stabilization, so it's cropped around 14%. And the last option, since this is the latest and greatest Sony camera, it records gyro data, and you can stabilize the footage in post, although you need another step in post which takes time, and also you need to fulfill some conditions to be able to stabilize the footage. So my first lens of choice for A7 IV is this Samyang 24mm f2.8. f2.8 should be fast enough for vlogging, and especially for every test for this vlogging I haven't used any filter to have 180-degree shutter angle. It doesn't matter for vlogging, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be cinematic and have 180 degrees shutter angle. It doesn't matter that much, although it would be probably better, but for the test I haven't used it. So the shutter speed has been from 1/200 to 1/8000, but doesn't matter that much. And this lens is not bad regarding the image quality, even wide open, especially this is not a lens sharpness contest, and it weighs less than 100 grams without any cap, so it is very, very light. So together with this lens, A7 IV with mic and this tripod weighs 1120 grams, which is a bit more than 1 kilo, which is 300 grams more than the A6600 with the 12mm lens, but it's still light. Like, I almost does not feel the difference between the A6600 setup, and I haven't tested A6600 with any other lens because there was no use. I do not have any image stabilized lens wide enough to use for vlogging. So after the fail with the Samyang, I mean, I tested before Sigma 69, is the same story. It's very jerky. So I tested this. First of all, in my opinion, the field of view is too tight. So 24mm is too tight for vlogging. I'd say probably 20 is the lowest you can get, because with 24 it is really claustrophobic. There is only my face in the frame and you cannot see much of surroundings. Sometimes it is okay if the surroundings are not very exciting, but sometimes it would be nice to show when you are, so in my opinion, it's too tight. And regarding the image quality, of course, it's very nice because it's 4K oversampled from 7K on A7 IV. Sound quality is okay to an extent you can expect from the cheap mic. Only IB stabilization, I say it's bad. I mean, I've been walking normally without any ninja walk and stuff like that. I haven't been walking very fast. I've been walking around my house. There is some stuff on the ground, so I have to avoid that stuff. So some steps were different than others. And sometimes I was switching hands. So for me, the IB stabilization is not enough. And that's why I switched to active stabilization. And some people claim in the internet reviews that you need to use active stabilization to record Gyro data, which is not true. Active stabilization is just a digital stabilization over the IB stabilization. So you got a additional crop, and since you got additional crop, there is more room for IBs to operate, and that way the footage might be a bit better stabilized. But you can check yourself. First of all, with the active stabilization, this is definitely too tight, so you cannot use active stabilization with 24mm. This is out of the question, so that's the first thing. And the second thing, it wasn't that good. And then you got the gyro stabilization. So actually you don't have to turn any stabilization at all. The gyro data is recorded anytime you record video on A7 IV, but you need a lens which can talk to the camera. So the camera have to be aware what is the field of view, and then it records the gyro data. Of course, you can record gyro data together with IB stabilization and together with active stabilization, but actually the recommendation is to just not use any stabilization and then stabilize everything in post. And I think the results are the best with such settings. But there are some conditions you have to meet to get proper stabilization. So first of all, you can forget about the 180-degree rule, because the shutter speed of 1/15 of the second is too slow for catalyst browse to work correctly. You would have some artifacts in the footage if you use that slow of the shutter. So shutter speed should be faster than 1/200 of a second. So in my case, it's not a problem because I haven't been using the ND filter, and I haven't been following the 180-degree rule. So I met that condition. And also you have to record with 60 or less frames per second. So it's not a problem because I'm recording 25. And I guess the biggest con of this is that you have to run every clip through catalyst browse in post. So it takes a lot of time. It is like on my computer, which is a Ryzen 2700 third generation and NVIDIA RTX 2070. It takes like 3 minutes per minute of footage. So if you got 1 hour recording, the stabilization would take 3 hours. And if you got free catalyst browse software, you can stabilize one video at a time. So if you vlogging and recording one video for 5 minutes, then there is a break, you go somewhere and you record another video for 5 minutes. You are stuck, you have to be in front of your computer, or you can buy the monthly subscription option, which is Catalyst Prepare. It's the same app, but you got actually the option to batch process the files. I'd say it's very lame, but it is what it is. So to be able to process in batch mode, you need a paid service. And also there is a rumor that Catalyst Browse produces only 8-bit footage, which is not true. You have just to convert your videos, if they are recorded in 10-bit, you have to convert them in All-I. I'm recording in that mode anyway, internally. So it's not a problem, although the footage would take twice as much. So you have to be prepared to have plenty of room during the conversion of the footage. And the problem with Catalyst Browse is that it is not very much optimized for the GPUs. CPU utilization is around 80% when the conversion happens, and the GPU utilization is around 20%. So probably there's a room to make it better, but Sony probably doesn't care. I'm not sure how fast it is on the Mac M1. Might be the case it is faster. Unfortunately, there are not much reviews on YouTube regarding the Catalyst Browse on Mac M1. I only seen 2 videos and they are not very specific regarding the speed. So that's another thing to check. Might be the case that M1 is like 3 times faster, but I doubt it. And it would be really nice if Blackmagic includes Gyro data stabilization in DaVinci Resolve. That would be fantastic if I could just stabilize the footage I choose to use from the vlog. So for example, I vlog for 2 hours and then I use like 20 minutes of this footage in my video, so then I could stabilize only this 20 minutes. That would be fantastic. And since Blackmagic got the most optimized software for the hardware, so they can utilize every CUDA core of RTX cards, and they can utilize M1 chips of Apple very efficiently. So probably that would be like 10 times faster than Sony version, although it might be the case that this is licensed, so they are not allowed to do it, or they don't care because the Sony users are like 20% of the DaVinci Resolve customers. So that probably never happened, but it would be very nice to have this in DaVinci Resolve. But at the moment it's the additional step, but you have to experiment a bit. So when you stabilize in Catalyst Browse, you choose the amount of crop, and the default setting is 25% crop, so it's quite huge. That's why it's not very useful on 24mm. But you can set this to 90% or even 95%, and most of the jerks would be eliminated. Only very huge jerks would be visible, but they are still toned a bit. So I think 90 to 95 is still okay. So if you lose only 10% of the footage, even 24 might work, but for sure 20mm would work excellent. So after I tested this, I knew that the flow state is the best way to go, but 24mm is too tight. I guess an option would be to buy a 20mm lens, but Sony 20mm is quite expensive. But A7 IV can record 4K video in Super 35 mode. So it means when you connect APS-C lens, it automatically switches. You can choose, but I set it up for automatic switch. It automatically switches to a Super 35 mode. And actually, I can connect either this 12mm Samyang or Sigma 16mm switch I'm recording at the moment on, and I still got 4K video, which is oversampled for 4.6K. Maybe it's not that crisp as 7K oversampled 4K, but you probably wouldn't spot a difference on YouTube. So then I connected this 12mm lens. It switched to APS-C mode, but it is still 4K, and that way I can use A7 IV IBIS, which is a bit better than A6600. I can use active stabilization, which is then better than IBIS, but the best thing is that I can use Catalyst Browse. So with the 12mm on A7 IV, I got 18mm equivalent, which is f3. So I say it's even better than 20mm. It is wider, so I got a room to crop in post or room to use active stabilization. If I choose to, you can check the footage, and actually the Catalyst stabilized footage is like really nice. So I guess it checks all of my 3 conditions. So great image quality, good sound quality. It depends on the mic, but with this cheap mic it was okay. The stabilization is fantastic. Although the con is that you have to run each video through the app, and it takes time. So that's the only con, I think. And of course, if you want to shoot with 180 degrees shutter angle, you would probably get some artifacts, which is a bummer. But I think from the gear I got, it is the best option. And the setup weighs 1240 grams, so it is still light. It is 400 grams heavier than the same setup with A6600, but it is still okay to keep it like that with the elbow tucked, and the field of view is exactly the same as on A6600. So at the moment, I think it's the best option. There are other options to consider, like there is 14mm f1.8 G Master lens, but it's like $1,600, so I wouldn't buy this for vlogging, at least at the moment, unless I got a vlogging channel with 1 million subscribers, then yes, I would buy it. Then there is a 20mm f1.8 Sony, which would be tighter than this 12mm Samyang in Super 35 mode, and this is lighter. This weighs 212 grams, and Sony 20mm is 373 grams, and this is $350, and the Sony is $1,000, so this is 3 times cheaper. And actually in Poland I paid, because there was a promo, I paid $266 for this. So I think it's a viable option for vlogging with a 7.4. There is also Tamron 20mm f2.8, which is cheap, which is even cheaper than this, and it's full frame, but it's f2.8. And it would be narrower field of view because it's 20mm. I also checked this Laowa 12mm f2.8. And actually the field of view is quite interesting. This is fully manual lens, so yeah, since you can use it on 2.8 or set it to f4 and actually get your face in focus regardless the distance from your face, unless you just outstretch your arm like that. But with that lens you won't be able to do so, because first of all I have to use MC11, so the lens is longer, and this lens is very heavy, 750 grams almost with MC11. So the whole setup is 170 grams, and it's very, very, very heavy. So I guess I have to switch hands every 30 seconds to be able to vlog for longer than 3 minutes. So it is not very stable, and also you are not recording gyro data because this is fully manual lens without any connections. So you cannot use catalyst browse with it. And you can check how this looks without image stabilization, with IBIS and with active one. I think it's not very good. I mean, maybe active one could be accepted, but there are some jerks like that. So I have also tested Sigma 16mm, but actually that was exactly the same field of view as this 24, since this 24 is full frame and Sigma is APS-C, so Sigma was in Super 35 mode. So in my opinion, too tight for vlogging. There is only my head in the frame, and that's it. So I don't like that style of vlogs. What are other options? There is also this G Master 40mm, which I think would be very nice, but it's very expensive, and it's 460 grams, so it would be heavier than this combo, almost 300 grams. There is also Samyang 40mm f2.8. It is then heavier than G Master, and it's more than one stop of light slower. Although it's quite cheap because it's like 1/3 of the price of the G Master. So that's the consideration also. There are not much of image stabilized lenses. There is 12 to 24 f4. Maybe I would test this one. It sounds promising, although it's more than half kilo, so the whole setup would be 1.6 kilos, so on very heavy side. But I wonder how the optical image stabilization would work. There is also 12 to 24 f2.8 G Master, which is almost a kilo. It's 850 grams, so that would be crazy. It would be even heavier than this one, and it's very big and bulky, so I doubt it will be good for vlogging. There is also Tamron 11 to 20 f2.8, which is not image stabilized, and it's APS-C, so it would be around 16 to something. So yeah, 16 might be also okay, but this lens is quite expensive. It's 800 bucks, so I wouldn't buy this just for vlogging. There is also Sony APS-C lens 10 to 18 f4, which is again f4, and it works only in APS-C mode. I mean, you can use it in full frame to some extent from 15mm, so maybe. And this lens got optical image stabilization, so there are some pros of this lens, but it is not sharp. It is f4, and the quality varies from copy to copy. So some copies are totally soft, and some copies are a bit sharper, but none of them are sharp, so image quality is not the best, and it's f4 in APS-C mode, so like f6 equivalent. It is quite light because it's 225 grams, but it's very expensive. It's 900 bucks new, which is crazy. I've seen some used options for 600 bucks, so it is still too expensive for that quality of a lens. So there are not very many options for Sony, actually, which would be suitable for vlogging. So I think at the moment, this combo seems to be the best, but running this through catalyst browse might be annoying. And the whole setup is 1240 grams, so it is still quite heavy. Based on example footage regarding the stabilization, this camera is the best. This also got the widest field of view, so it is also a Pro, and you can change the field of view using the selfie stick. Although you need a cage, which I don't have, to record from external mic, or you have to tether yourself to lav mic. And if you are using 360 mode, then the selfie stick would be invisible, but if you are running a cable from the camera to yourself, then the cable would be visible and it looks lame. It's just dangling cable. So I think this with external mic would be the best option, because actually I can put this into my pocket, which is the opposite of the other two. It got really good stabilization, especially if you use the float state. If you want the fastest setup, like wash and go, you can use it with the 4K mode. Although there is one con of this camera, that it starts like 10 seconds, maybe even more, to just turn it on, and then to actually record, it takes like 3 to 4 seconds to start recording, which is quite annoying. A7 IV or A6600 are much faster. You can turn them on in 1 second and start recording immediately. So that's lame on this camera, but I think it still got a decent image quality if you are vlogging outside. If you go inside, then the noise is really annoying on this one. The next option, I think, is to use A7 IV in Super 35 mode with this, and I would check these two options more in a field to see which one I prefer. But at the moment, these are two options I can use without buying any new gear, and I cannot recommend A6600 without optical stabilization, because it is too jerky. It is really annoying to watch. For this one, you definitely need a cage to be able to connect the mic. There are some other modifications. I think that you can, of course, glue the mic here using some stickies. Maybe it's an option. And image stabilization is better than any image stabilization in A7 IV, except for the catalyst browse. Although I think the flow state is on par with catalyst browse, because it is actually the same technology. So it's hard to guess. You may judge based on the example footage. And the basic stabilization of this one is also quite nice. Although you got a crop and you lose a bit of the quality of the video, but I would say it's still better than the jerky A6600. And the annoying part is, if you are using the float state, you have to run this through the external app before you can edit this in DaVinci Resolve, so it's another con. So A6600 with any lens that is not optically stabilized, I think it's useless. It's too jerky. Unless your content is so interesting that the audience wouldn't care that this is shaky footage. So maybe it's an option. The image quality is very good. With the Samyang 12mm, the field of view is 18mm equivalent on full frame. In my opinion, this is the perfect field of view for vlogging. But it would be nice if it would be a bit wider. So 15mm would be probably the sweet spot. And with f3 equivalent, you actually get some blurry out of focus background, and you can stop the lens to get more stuff in focus. So you got plenty of options, while here you almost got everything in focus. Maybe if you put it like that, there will be some out of focus area, but on the footage everything looks like it's in focus. And A7 IV with the 12mm Samyang is very good if you use the catalyst browse stabilization. Although there's another step, and you have to spend 3 minutes per minute of footage on it. And if you do not have the paid option of Catalyst, which is Catalyst Prepare, then you have to run every footage manually through that software, which is quite annoying. And there is a crop between 10 to 5%. It depends how shaky the footage is. If you are running, you probably have to crop more, like 20 to 25%. But if you're just walking casually, then 10 to 5% should be okay. So because of the cropping, there is a small quality loss in the footage, but I'd say it's not visible in the footage. Even crop 25% is not that bad, but the whole setup is quite heavy, so it is 1200 grams with the Joby mic, lens and stuff. while this with a cage and mic would be 400 grams, so it would be 3 times lighter, and with options to change the field of view using the selfie stick. And of course you can use longer selfie stick, so you can like even simulate the drone if you got 2 meter selfie stick, which I actually got. So from my gear, this is the best, but I need a cage or another way to connect the external mic. If I would like the best picture quality, I would choose A7 IV, and in my opinion A6600 is unusable for vlogging without any optical stabilization, and I'm not sure it would be usable with optical stabilization, but might be the case I would be able to check if I rent or borrow optically stabilized lens. And probably the ultimate vlogging camera to get the really nice image quality, good sound quality, and the best possible stabilization is one of the Olympus cameras, so either OM Systems OM1 or EM1 Mark III. But at the moment, the only tested lens is 12mm, which is 24mm equivalent, which is like this one. And that would be, in my opinion, too tight for vlogging, unless you put this on a stick. So for any of the mirrorless cameras, you can put them on a longer tripod and extend your hand, but you will be able to vlog like that for like 2 minutes, and then your hand would get tired, so you have to switch hands or just do a lot of workout to be able to keep the lens like that. So you can see on the example footage how jerky each footage is, or how smooth it is with proper image stabilization, and there will be also some comparison between them all. So I'd say the sweetest spot is the A7 IV with Samyang, but you have to run this through Catalyst Browse because either IBIS or active state is not enough in my opinion, or this one, but I need external mic to be able to record any usable audio because the internal mic is just crappy if there is any wind. There is a wind reduction in the camera, but it's really poor in my opinion, so you wouldn't like to hear such audio. So at the moment that's it. I'm waiting for any review of Olympus camera with Leica 9mm to see if this is even worth considering, but at the moment I would stick with what I got and maybe extend this one with the cage to be able to record with this and external mic. And you can decide yourself based on the example footage which option do you prefer. Maybe you can even accept the A6600 with the jerky stabilization. It's your call. I hope that all the examples will be useful, and I guess that's it. Cheers!